Welcome to a post-draft segment of Meet the Future presented by Kubota. I'm Scott Van Cunit, and back with me today is Sportsnet's draft guru, Sam Cosentino. Sam, the dust has settled on a wild 2020 virtual NHL draft. It went without the pomp and circumstance of a regular year, but the players were still made available to the media via Zoom calls like this. You were in the studio for 2 days. What did you think about it?
I thought the NHL did a great job. It's funny because we went in on the Monday night for a rehearsal, and I got to tell you, in that rehearsal, things did not go well, and ended up sitting with Mike Fuda and Brian Burke afterwards, and the three of us were discussing how much concern there was amongst the group by how well things didn't go on that night. But then we got to draft night, and everything was kind of calm and cool, and we got in position and got rolling, and I was amazed how they were able to coordinate everything. You think about 31 different strategy rooms. You think about splitting between NBC and Sportsnet, to cover off the United States and Canada. You think about going back to Bill Daly to go on and make the picks. And then you think about going to the 40 some odd players that they had ready to go. Obviously only, 31 of them on the first night. And the Columbus pick wasn't one of them. So at the end of the day, when they combined everything and put it all together and it came out flawlessly. I mean, other than some internet delay issues, which are out of the hands of all the technical setup that you can provide, I went swimmingly well, and I was surprised based on what happened in the rehearsal 2 nights earlier.
Well, it definitely looked great on TV as well.
Yeah, thanks.
After a bit of a down year, in 2019, the CHL as a whole rebounded with 19 players selected in the first round, including Lafreniere and Byfield going 1 and 2, and 78 total players across both days. What does that say about the strength of the CHL right now?
Well, no doubt. I mean, everyone, you're talking about strength, and most people will look to what happens in the first round. And like you mentioned, those 19 players was a real boon for the Canadian Hockey League. But more importantly was just how spread out it was across the 3 leagues. And that's something that as an analyst I had talked about all year. I mean, we looked at the 2019 draft, and all the big talk was centered around the US under 18 program, and rightfully so. They had an amazing year. The 2001 born players were awesome. There's going to be a lot of impactful players in the National Hockey League that will have come from that team. So getting back to the CHL and looking at Lafreniere kind of, carrying the flag for the Canadian Hockey League with his Quebec Major Junior Hockey League roots and Rimouski, and then looking at the Ontario Hockey League with Byfield and Drysdale, and moving down to Quinn Rossi, Perfetti for 5 of the top 10 there, really, really super impressive. And then a guy like Seth Jarvis, who really jumped up in the second half to become the first player selected out of the Western Hockey League. You can look at Schneider and Gregg and, Gooley and Zary. And, there was a lot of really good things that happened for all 3 leagues. So that was probably the most impressive part for me, Scott, because a lot of times you talk about a really good draft and it's really kind of focused or cyclical based on one league. It wasn't that way at all this year. It was really spread out amongst the 3 leagues.
Yeah, that's right. There's 7 players from the WHL, 7 from the OHL, and 5 from the Q in the first round alone. So that's pretty good. Leading the way for clubs overall were Brandon and the Sioux with 4 players selected each. And in the Q, Chicoutimi with 3 players, and 2 of those guys going in the first round. But I'm sure you're not surprised to see those clubs churning out that kind of talent.
Well, not at all. Brandon has always been a club that's produced top-notch talent. And I think right up until when he sold the club, Kelly McCrimmon, although he was the general manager in Vegas, surely had his hand in some of the recruiting and that went on with Brandon to be able to acquire those good players with Gregg and Schneider, as you talked about, being in the first round. But it's a storied franchise in the league. It can at times be a difficult place to play because of how far east that they're located. Obviously, it helps with Winnipeg being there now. But you're talking about being a part of one of the legendary franchises. Then you look at the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, and you'd have to say the same thing, of a legendary franchise, a lot of stability in terms of the ownership, the city support, the general manager and the coaches that have gone through there that have graduated to the pros. And that's a team that's really done a good job getting players from all over to commit to their program. I mean, they have an awesome building. The city's fantastic. And so being able to kind of put the finishing touches on recruiting those players after you draft them, and then getting there and then selling them on a program that has produced so many good NHL players and so many great NHL draft picks, becomes a thing. So that, to me, when I look at the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, again, another legendary franchise. And finally, Chicoutimi is long history in the Canadian Hockey League, in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. They were poised to do some really big things before the pause occurred. But one of those big things was the acquisition of Dawson Mercer coming over from Drummondville. And then when you think about what was the potential return of Hendrix Lapierre on April 7th, they were looking like they were going to do some really good things. So again, another franchise that's steeped in history in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, but it extended, a lot beyond that, with a lot of teams having a lot of success in the draft this year.
And now we have the Barrie Colts as the team that's leading with the most active consecutive first round picks, with Svechnikov, then Suzuki, and now Tyson Forster joining them. So teams all over the place that are leading the way in the CHL.
Yeah, no question about it. And again, it works in a way that as a coach and a general manager, you're trying to sell your program. And how do you do that? Well, yeah, we're going to have a good team, but one of the other things is, we're close to where a lot of scouts get to watch games. Scouts will come and watch our games because we've produced good players in the past. So that tends to be how the ball gets rolling. You get a good basis, a good starting point. You recruit that really good player or players, and then the ball just continues to roll thereafter.
Oh, that's great. We'll check in again tomorrow, Sam.
Sounds good, Scott.